hail and farewell. Donald Trump becomes the 45th President of the United States.
This moment is your moment. It belongs to you.
A new era begins as an historic period in America comes to an end.
President Obama waves goodbye to the nation's capital.
The latest from the inauguration now on WWAY News at 5. And thanks for joining us for your News at 5. I'm Daniel Siemens. A historic day in Washington as the first black president leaves office and the first president never to have previously held office, public office, or serve in the military takes office. It is the big story at 5. Barack Obama and Donald Trump rode together to the U.S. Capitol this morning for the peaceful transfer of power. Mr. Trump taking his oath of office just before noon on the west face of the Capitol in front of hundreds of thousands of people on the National Mall. In his brief inaugural address, the president said that the oath he took was an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
January 20th, 2017 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer.
Minutes before Trump's swearing in, former Indiana Governor Mike Pence took his oath to serve as vice president. Of course, Mr. Trump's swearing in marked the end of 8 years of Barack Obama's presidency. The new first couple escorted the outgoing first couple down the steps of the Capitol to a waiting helicopter. That helicopter flying the Obamas to Joint Base Andrews, where the president spoke to staff and supporters one last time before leaving Washington. The now former president said his 8 years were about them, not him.
It's not the monuments. It's you being willing to work to make things better and being willing to listen to each other and argue with each other and come together and knock on doors and make phone calls and treat people with respect.
Obama continued by saying he could not be prouder of the American people and that it's important to understand this is a continuing story of building America. The Obamas then headed out on a flight to Palm Springs. The former Vice President Joe Biden is headed home to Delaware. He boarded an Amtrak train shortly after Donald Trump was sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. Biden and his wife Jill boarded the train, headed to a welcome home ceremony. A big part of today's pomp and circumstance was the inaugural parade. It starts with the new president reviewing his troops before taking the slow trip down Pennsylvania Avenue to his new home at the White House, where he and his family watched the festivities. The Trumps got out of their limo briefly to wave to the public. Protesters greeted the president along the parade route and made their voices heard throughout the day around Washington, some violently. Police had to use tear gas, pepper spray, and concussion grenades to deal with some of the groups. There were also reports of vandalism, including some broken windows and fires set. Protests were also reported in other cities across the country. While things were underway in Washington, some college students here in the Cape Fear held celebrations of their own as President Trump was sworn in. WWAY's Kirsten Gutierrez has stopped by and has more. Kirsten.
Daniel, it's been an exciting day for the UNCW College of Republicans as they got together to reflect on the hard work they put in over the past year. The campus organization held a viewing party at the Blue Water Grill this afternoon. Several students attended as they watched the man they campaigned for in one way or another take office. UNCW College Republican President Kyle Lewis says despite the negativity, he's excited to see what's to come.
Hopefully into prosperity. I think everybody as Americans hopes for that. I don't think anybody should be, hoping that he fails, because obviously he's the captain of the ship right now, and everybody's on board. So we want to make sure that he's successful in everything that he does.
Lewis says it's been a long road and a lot of hard work, but he's proud of the organization and all the students involved. Coming up at 6, we'll hear from more students supporting President Trump and some who aren't too fond of the new administration. Daniel?
Thank you, Kirsten. And like Kirsten said, not everyone is excited about the new president. Protesters gathered this morning in Wilmington to share their message. Dozens were at Pomegranate Books for what they're calling a gathering of hope. The event kicked off with people writing letters of thanks to the Obama administration, as well as making paper cranes representing peace, love, and optimism. Organizer Deb Bowman says the gathering is more than just an outlet for those upset with the new president.
Our goal today is to let people know that there is hope. There is always hope. We call it an obligation of hope. So there is always hope, and there is always the promise that we can come together in a peaceful way to manifest a peaceful world.
Bowman led a moment of silence at noon, followed by a lesson on how to make the paper cranes. The Gathering of Hope ran from 10 until 2. Of course, inauguration coverage continues with ABC World News and CBS Evening News, both at 6:30. Then tonight at 8 on WWAY-CBS, a primetime special, Change and Challenge the Inauguration of Donald Trump. Gail King of CBS This Morning and Face the Nation's John Dickerson will be hosting. Then at 10 p.m. on ABC, a special edition of 2020, the inauguration of Donald J. Trump, which will recap the day and includes interviews with the new first family. And then stay tuned for WWAY News at 11.